I would now like to talk about this gentleman right here, Karl König, otherwise known as Charlie. I met him at a tanker reunion the same time that I met Gunther Hahn. They were good buddies. I believe they were in Panzer Regiment 5 in Africa. Now, Karl König, he came from a Handelsfamilie in Hamburg, a trading family, a merchant family in Hamburg, and he was exposed to English as a young kid, and he could speak good English. Even during the war, he could speak good English. And his father had been in the War of 1870, the Franco-Prussian War, and his grandfather had been, and his father was in World War I and had his jaw blown off by artillery. And Charlie told me that his father starved to death in the 20s because he just couldn't eat because of his jaw. But both of them had been officers and had been highly decorated. And Charlie's quest in World War II was to become an officer and to become highly decorated. Well, that didn't work out for him. So Charlie gets transferred to Africa. And he's a member of he's a loader on a Mark IV in Africa. And this is a picture of he had a camera, and this is a picture of their tank. And he told me that when they were camouflaging this tank, afterwards, he said he got crossways with the sergeant in the tank because Charlie was telling the sergeant, the tank's not battle ready. We got to fix some stuff. And the sergeant was saying, let's get going. Come on, let's just go. And Charlie's saying, we need to be prepared. And the sergeant told him, I'm going to make sure you never make officer. So Charlie never made officer. He got captured beforehand. This is a very interesting picture of his tank racing down the road in Africa. And what's interesting is you can see a German helmet strapped on it right here, a camouflaged helmet that they've got strapped on it. But you can also see, if you zoom in, there's a vehicle coming down the road at them. You can see the cloud of dust. Pretty good picture from Africa. And this is a picture of Charlie's tank commander. I got to talk to him on the phone. I can't remember his name, I'm sorry. But he survived the war. And here's a picture of Charlie's tank when they were set up in Africa. He said a Spitfire came and strafed them, and they were trying to shoot it down as it flew away. So Charlie's story is that he was captured in Africa and interned in several different POW camps in Texas, but he ended up in Alva, Oklahoma, which was a hardcore camp for Nazis. And I couldn't imagine that Karl was a hardcore Nazi. He was a very kind gentleman. And one time, he used to tell us this story about when he was a POW, that the family, the ranch that he went and worked on, at night when they were done with their chores, they would let him take a horse out into the country. He was an equestrian. He grew up riding horses. And he said he would ride this horse out into the middle of the prairie and lay down with the horse in the grass and just look up at the stars. Imagine that's your POW life. He also told me that he participated in a rodeo. And some vets tell you stories and you're like, yeah, okay, whatever. And so when he told me that, I thought, a POW participating in a rodeo? And then when I went to his house, he showed me all these high quality pictures. German optics were far better than American optics. And when you look at their pictures compared to ours from World War II's, theirs are very sharp and crisp. And there were all these sharp, crisp pictures that were in this larger format. And then there was this small snapshot, and it was of him riding a horse in a rodeo. And he said one of the guards took that picture and gave it to him. Fascinating. So I can remember him telling me about, for some reason he was outside of his tank, I can't remember, but the Americans were shooting at him, and he said the machine gun bullets were just going right above the ground. And he said he was laying down, and that he crawled into the tracks in the road to get as deep as he could to get away from those machine gun bullets. He was a very kind gentleman, and I tell you what, a few years ago, he flew over to America, and he met with this lady that interviewed a lot of German veterans, and I met with them, and we drove to Alva, Oklahoma, I called the city beforehand and talked to the Chamber of Commerce and told them that I was going to bring a German POW. And it was the strangest thing. So we pull up in front of the library, and there's maybe 8 or 10 people standing on the street who are elderly, but during World War II, they would have been young. And they were people that remembered the German soldiers, and they were hugging him. These American people from Oklahoma were hugging this German POW, recanting their childhood and talking about their experiences with the POWs, and they were crying. Charlie was crying. They were crying. It was a strange thing. It was very genteel. So we went into, I think it was, I can't remember what the building used to be, but it was in Alva, and they have a museum in there. And what was fascinating is they had all these pictures on the wall of German POWs, and Charlie goes, "There's Otto. Otto was my friend. He was half Jewish, and he took out my tonsils in the POW camp." And we took a picture of that and sent Charlie home with it to go show Otto. I think he did meet up with Otto before Otto died. If you hold on a minute, Mitch, I got that picture of Otto over here. Here's the picture of Otto that was on the wall. There were hundreds of pictures of POWs in Africa uniforms, which to me is just fascinating. So it was a good trip, and later, that lady that I went to Oklahoma with, she and Charlie got to go into a Mark IV tank in the Panzer Museum in Munster. And here's Charlie wearing his Afrika Korps cap that he wore in combat and in the POW camp, and he's back inside of his old tank, the Mark IV. I've got a series of such pictures. Acting as the loader. So she told me that he described every knob and switch inside the tank. They spent a couple hours in there. How fascinating that would have been to see. So when we were in the Alva, Oklahoma Museum, there was a incredible carving of an eagle with a swastika underneath it. And the curator told me that after the Germans had been transported back to Germany and the camp was empty, that they found this carving in the attic of one of the barracks. Well, the Germans were artisans, and they were very talented in such things. And this is an amazing eagle.